There was a burp in it. Okay, so I guess continuing on, more bad movies to talk about. I just really wish there'd be a good one. Like, I guess good enough to talk about. um, yeah, so I watched Antebellum tonight, and man, like, on the surface, on the very fucking surface, this movie is like, oh, but while watching this movie, it's like if The Village and Get Out had a movie baby, and this came out of it, leaning a little bit more towards The Village than Get Out. Like, this has wokeness in it, and I use it like, ugh, but it's like that where you're like, oh, this movie's woke, like that. It's not like Get Out where it's thought provoking and using current racial tensions and stuff, and created an amazing film. It's well written, well acted, blah blah blah. Here, it's like they wanted to kind of bank on something similar to that, but so much of it was very cosmetic. It was very surface level, and any wokeness in the movie was very surface level. It's very like corporate. Like when the shit hit the fan, when the revolution started back in June. A lot of companies, came out and they were like, we support, and then they were also kind of like gone, and now they're back. Like, anyway, whatever. It's very much like, we care until it's a good enough time to come back and be annoying. So this movie is about Janelle Monáe's character, who she's a writer. She's this like, you know, talking head on like their CNN or whatever. She's the woke lady in this universe. She's got a book and she's doing TED Talks, and she does all this stuff. And of course she gets a lot of hate from the old white man kind of thing. Sure, fine. Very similar. There's a lot of people out there like that today. Great, they're helping the cause. Awesome. But this is just... Is that like a pig squeal? What is my mom watching? Okay, sorry. I just hear like... I'm like, Jesus. Anyway. Mom. Again, this movie's very surface level. She has a family, all that stuff. She has like a friend, and her friend's played by was it something? But she played Precious, which that just seems so awful. What's her name? God, she was in American Horror Story. What, did you click? What the fuck? Oh, Gabrielle. Oh, I'm terrible with names, but like I said, she was in the movie Precious. It was in that American Horror Story Coven season. She plays a comic relief character, and whereas the comic relief character in Get Out, he was very useful, of course, literally to the end, very useful. He had his comic relief moments, but like they were good, concise, blah blah blah. And I feel like with like Gabby's character, it was very just kind of like she's the fellow woke friend. But again, it's cosmetic, because there was like a couple of scenes, like it happened like 3 times, where Janelle's character is doing like hot yoga in her hotel suite, and then she comes in with like iced coffee, and she's just like, okay, bye-bye, like shooing the yoga instructor away. Yes, the yoga instructor is white, but it's like you have a personal yoga instructor coming to your hotel suite, and you just shoo her away. It's like, I'm sorry, but your friend isn't mad at you for that? Like, that's probably not cheap. Her session probably wasn't done yet. You know what I mean? She probably was like, well, they're paid $300 for this, or however much that this shit goes for, thanks. And then they go, like, then she has, like, her book signing thing, and then she shows up again while this lady's trying to talk business stuff with her, she's, like, becoming famous and shit. Then she's, like, shooing her away, because she's like, oh, I know, you didn't want these, like, these white people talking to you and stuff. And it's like, no, you dumbass, like, what are you doing? I don't know, if that was me, I'd be like, you know, and then they go and have dinner and they like set them up in like a smaller table, and then she's like, that's not good enough, we're gonna sit here, I'm gonna go back and forth with you about what's good, da 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 da. And like the hostess wasn't even like, this is gonna be your table, black people, like it wasn't like that. It was just like, she was kind of like, and then she's like, thank you, Rebecca, and it's like so obnoxious. It's like, no, 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 you're not being the fellow woke friend. You're just being really obnoxious and like a shitty, um, what do you call that? Comic relief character. You know. Also, it's like, it seems like yeah, you are supportive of your friend, but you seem more like you're riding the coattails of your friend. You know, like okay. Anyway, so that aside, so the movie, like just saying that, so the movie starts off, you know, and it's slavery time. It's like, oh, joy, great. Slavery time, you know, all the awful things. There's even like a part where it's like a bunch of like newly captured, you know, people. It's so horrible, like talk about it like that. And then the white southern lady is like checking, you know, the black people. Just oh my god, it's so horrible for me to say it like that. It's played by Jenna Malone, and she has like the worst southern accent. Like I was saying before with the New Mutants, where it's like I'm from the south and that's how I talk. You know, that's what he was doing, but he's like British, so I could kind of like let that go a bit. But Jenna Malone's American, but she was like, I'm southern like a southern belle. This is what southern, and I'm like, when you're trying to have your movie and you're trying to be woke and you're trying to, you know, show that, you know, what the bad side is, you can't use stereotypes. You know, you can't do the stereotype thing to kind of prove your point. Because that's what the other side does. They see us as XYZ stereotype, which is why they are racist. You can't do a stereotype of like, also the people there, again, yes, there are some, but like, you can't do that. And then it's just anyway. So you have her like Jenna Malone there as racist woman, you know, fine. Um, so like you know, horrible slavery things happen. You know, people are beaten, raped, all that horrible stuff. And one of the main guys, you know, has chosen said Jenna Malone has chosen Janelle Monáe as I guess like she's the woman he's gonna just be taking advantage of. So he does the do with her, and then she's just like, okay, well, he's sleeping, and then she's trying to like to sleep next to technically her rapist, and she's like, okay. Then you suddenly hear a cell phone ring, and you're like, the hell? Then she like wakes up from like, oh, okay. So you're thinking, is this a dream sequence? Okay, like you know, okay, if this is a dream, that's a horrible dream. She wakes up, she's like, oh, I'm achy, you know, and even like her husband's like, do you have a bad dream? And she's like, yeah, I'm fine. You know, you're like, okay, modern times. Like I said, she's an author, all that stuff. She has like a Skype call, and her Skype call ends up being with Jenna Malone. And it's like, okay, well, I understand sometimes whatever people from, you know, your reality is in your dream. And then she still has that terrible southern accent. And Janelle Monáe, you know, she's all dolled up. She's got like a like a Pat McGrath like lipstick. So Pat McGrath lipsticks are like fucking like $40-$50. You know, very well pigmented stuff, but just that fucking price, like Jesus. Anyway, and then she's like, Jenna Malone is Skyping from, you know, her car because I guess this is a professional call and might as well do it in your car. And she's like, that lipstick color on your skin looks great. She's like, I can't imagine if it looked good on Molly, boo boo hoo, boo hoo. Like, it's the accent, I can't. So, Janelle Monáe's character is kind of like fed up. She gets off the Skype call, she just wipes her lipstick off, which I'm just kind of like, I don't know. Like, it didn't even feel like a microaggression when she did that. It was just kind of like, it was like a terrible comment. Like, yes, you could take it as a microaggression, but it's very much like, what? You know? I get her, like, frustration because hearing something like that and then just being like, I'm gonna wipe the lipstick off. But at the same time, I would just be like, what the fuck is wrong with this bitch? Anyway, so then, yeah, the stuff I said before then later happens. She flies out, she's in her hotel suite, she's doing hot yoga, she does all that, la la la. And then, so after the dinner thing, as I said before, this movie kind of does a little Tarantino with their timeline. So then they have the dinner, then they go to like Janelle Monáe's character takes like a separate Uber than friend and person does, and I hate when movies try to act like they're smarter than you, and it's like no, like a lot of times yes, as I've said many times, a lot of times the audience can be stupid, but there's sometimes where it's like stop. You know what I mean? If you're gonna be a smart movie, be a smart movie, but don't try to like think we're dumb. Like that's like always like the worst thing. So there's like, like a fucking Chevy Suburban pulling up and she has her back to the car and they're all taking a selfie. Immediately I'm like, oh my gosh, she's gonna get kidnapped. That's the celebrity in the car, kidnapped car. It's not a van, but she's tiny. You can probably, just pick her up and put her in a freaking Honda Civic, like it's not hard. So, she gets in the car and there's like just club music really loud in that car. And she's like, can you just turn that down? And I'm like, I don't even think the driver can hear you. Then another friend go in their car and they're having a good time listening to Lizzo and all that stuff. Oh, also, when she was doing hot yoga, she was wearing Ivy Parker because we have to really hammer it home of we're listening to Lizzo. We've got Ivy Parker, which is Beyonce's brand. We have Pat McGrath, who is a black makeup artist. We have to, you know, keep, you know, keep that in mind, like I get it, Anyway, so, whatchamacallit. So while she's in the car and, the loud, techno music happens, her phone rings, she answers it, and it's the real Uber driver. And I already knew. It's like, bitch, you're in the wrong car. I knew it already. Like, we all know what to do if we're doing rideshare. You look, you check the license plate correct, you make sure the car is the right color, you look at the photo of the person, you make sure the moment, like, my picture on Live is the picture of it was like the day I was trying on these glasses because it's like this. It's a hat, these glasses. If I'm doing rideshare, I usually just kind of look like this, So it's like I make sure I look like me. I'm like, okay, you look like that, There's only been like one time where I did a rideshare thing and something didn't quite match. And the guy like rolled down the window and he was like, Joe? And I was like, all right, cool. And he was like, yo, you were a little hesitant. I was like, I'm just letting you know, your license plate match. Your picture looks like you're 30 years older than what you are, and your car wasn't the right color. The guy was like, oh yeah, I share this with my dad, which makes sense, the face, He goes, yeah, also I don't know how, he's like, I don't know what happened, how my car got that color. And I was like, okay. Explained, he understood, we got it, I got home safe, 5 stars, got him the tip, and we're good, But yeah, she's in there, and then her phone rings, she's like, oh, hello. And it's like, and of course the Uber driver, they had to give her like an Asian accent. She's like, I am your Uber driver. Like, ugh. Again, well, don't use stereotypes. It could just give him a regular voice. Just be like, hey, this is Steve. I'm your Uber driver. No, she's like, oh, I am Uber driver. Like, just whatever Asian woman. And instead of being like, usually in a movie where it's like, what? Oh my God, like, let me try to get out. She's like, oh no, I'm already in the car. I'm ready. And the woman's like, no, I'm outside, like outside the restaurant. She goes, no. She's like, no, it's fine. I'm in the car already. Like, I'm sorry, ma'am, but you deserve to get kidnapped if you just didn't, like, you know what I mean? Like, there's been times where, like, stupid people, I've been somewhere where it's busy and stupid people try to get into my rideshare, And that's why they'll be like, they'll say their name, and sometimes they're just like, I don't care, I'm not gonna get out, and that's when you want to beat a bitch because you're at the airport, you want to get home, anyway. But you're just like, oh no, I'm already here, no, I don't need it, bye-bye, like, I'm sorry, you deserve to get kidnapped for this. So, turning the timetables thingy, so what you saw in the beginning wasn't a dream. It's actually what's happening after she got kidnapped. But they had to establish, they had to open the movie with just horribleness. Because it just, and then they had a Tarantino the timeline. So, this is where it becomes like The Village, where these white people just like, either they pay money or whatever, and they just capture these, black people to like freaking LARP or whatever and just role play because there's Civil War reenactors, and now they want to reenact this part of Civil War, or right before the Civil War, or just slavery, and they're just like, we're the white people, boo 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 boo, and then it's like literally having black people like in the cotton fields. It's like, Jesus Christ. So you're like, okay, this is where it's like the village, although the village is like they created the village for like a safety thing. Here it's like racism. So anyway, Janelle Monáe, she escapes because, you know, she's not stupid. One of the guys was stupid. The guy who was like her, anyway, he had his phone, so she like called, you know, all that stuff, and then she rode on a horse out. And that's like when the cinematography kicked in, like the amazing cinematography kicked in. You know, all of a sudden, like she like locked a bunch of like dudes in a incinerator, lit them up. The entire thing's on fire. She literally walks out, arm up like this, big old torch on fire, and it like, and it didn't feel like like at the end of Get Out when the house was on fire, and you're like, yeah, the house is on fire, get out. But it just felt like the movie was patting itself on the back, like, we did it, we did it. And it's like, I mean, it was great, but like having her just full on like, yeah, like Olympic torch it, like it felt a little like, I know, you know. And then she gets on the horse, and then she like rides out, ride with me, you know, rides out. And then as she's riding out, it is, you know, like a battlefield, a Civil War like reenactment battlefield, and it's like close up on her. She's like, ah, and it's shot well, slow mo. She's got an axe in her hand, and you're like, whoa. And I get it, like she's literally escaping slavery, you know. But it's also just like, when did this cinematography come in? Like, you just last minute was like, most likely, you know, they shot the ending first, so that's like they had enough money to pay for the cinematographer. Then they ran out of money when they had to like, you know, shoot the other stuff. It's like, oh fuck. And so she's like riding off, you know, she's riding past, no cell phones, no trespassing, you know, duh. And she's like riding past, and then like as she's going further out, it looks like a state fair, and people in like regular clothes, and then you see like a bunch of cops like coming in. Of course, she gets saved, you know, because when she called 911. It like kind of glitched. Then she called her husband and like sent like a ping of like where her location was, all that stuff, you know. That was weird. It sounded like someone was knocking on the window, and I'm on the second floor. It's like, it's like, now, no. Anyway, so, you know, she escapes, all that stuff, great. Credits, and then the credits, it's like, you know, full screen, but the credits like this small, like quick little clips. It felt like the X-Files, where, you know, they're looking for missing people, and there's like, they're in that tombstone line, they're walking, and there's like, you know, hitting the ground. So, you know, of course they're going through looking at whomever has been killed and all the missing people. And then at the end you see the bulldozing over the sign. The reason why the movie's called Antebellum is because it was like Antebellum, Civil War, battlefield, da 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 da, whatever, plantation. You know, white people can't stop thinking about the, you know, like the Confederacy. Oh yeah, and there's a part where like, I keep almost saying Janelle Monáe, because her names start with J's, takes down the Confederate flag and then puts the races on there and then drags his body. And it was just, it's like, are we going for symbolism out of nowhere? You know? And also, mind you, this movie, like, halfway through the movie, like 49 minutes in, because I remember at one point I was like, you know, I've been watching this for a while. I feel like I'm about to hit the end of the movie, but I kept feeling like I was still being like introduced. Like I felt like it was still the beginning of the movie. And I looked and I was like halfway through the movie. It was at 49 minutes. And I was like, oh my god, I'm halfway through and I feel like I'm still like in the beginning of the fucking movie. And that 49 minutes felt like a pilot for a show. You know, like if this was like a limited series, like a 6-episode kind of thing, you know? Like the introduction of it. Like halfway through the episode is that horrible beginning thing, and then it's her kidnapping, and then we can, you know, do whatever in the next 5 episodes. Like that's what it felt like. But once it hit that halfway mark, and then like the dinner scene happened, and then she got into the fake Uber or whatever. Then all of a sudden, the movie just like went full sonic speed ahead to the end. It was just like, and then this happened, then this happened, that happened. Then it was like, okay, and then it wasn't even like, there wasn't even the whole like she tried to escape but then messed up and then got locked up and tried to escape again kind of thing. It's just like, oh, she was able to escape. Fine, not making noise. Wow, okay. Then she did that. Okay, she met up with the person. Okay, she did it. Okay, blah, blah, blah. She did. Like, literally every part was checked. Nothing really went wrong, and if anything went wrong, it still, like, went right immediately after. It's like, oh, okay. And then the movie ended. It was just kind of like, oh! Like, the pacing was just like, okay, and then, it's like you're just driving normal and you hit sport mode and you're like, and then the movie ends. Like, they also need to stop advertising movies that are like from the producers of Get Out, because this is not Get Out. Just because it's a movie where we're mentioning race relations and all that stuff, and it stars a black lead and has a black director, it's not. Like, please stop doing that. Like, stop. Because then it's also like, then you're kind of like, you're trying to elevate a movie that isn't at that level too high, and then you're kind of bringing down Get Out. Like, Get Out's amazing. Like, no, it's up here, guys. Stop trying to bring it down to this level, and stop trying to boost this movie up to this. And I saw, like, someone said it's like a really bad episode of Black Mirror. I can totally see that. you know. Someone else was like, Lionsgate choosing to release this instead of the new Saw thing. They're like, I feel personally attacked. I do too, because I'm just kind of like, I'm like, come on, man, I was waiting for another Saw movie. Aims for Jordan Peele and hits Neil Breen. Oh, that's terrible. Oh, they said Breen. Oh, ouch. But yeah, that was Antebellum. Like, oh man, like I said, it's just, it's not good. It's not good. It's not good. And then these are also like first time directors too. The first time directors. They also wrote it. And again, concept wise, I'm for this concept, but the execution just is like, oh, I get it, I'm with you. And it just, you know? Anyway, that's it.